Hi, everyone. This is the Perspective with Viv podcast. My name is Viv, and welcome to the show. Today's title is The Enemy Within: How Fear Became His Teacher, a conversation with Andrew Wilson. Now, Andrew Wilson is a trauma informed fear coach, QHHT practitioner, and the author of The Enemy Within. Great title. He's also the host of Beyond Transcendence, a podcast about waking up in a world that often wants us numb and silent. Andrew's journey moved from childhood loss and a near death fall through emotional breakdowns all the way into deep soul work, where he chose to transform fear from the enemy into the gateway. He now helps high achievers, especially men, hiding behind success, break free from the subconscious patterns keeping them stuck. Hi, Andrew. Welcome to the show.
Hi, hi, Viv. Thank you very much for the welcome.
My pleasure. So let's dive right into the questions. Your story starts with pain, disconnection, and survival mode. What was the moment when everything cracked open and healing became not optional, but essential?
It was in 2021 when I was working for the railway at the time, and I was coming back from a long 10-day stint on the road, and I got a phone call from a hospital, and they had let me know that my mother was taking a turn for the worse, and I had no idea that my mother was ill at the time. And so I went to see her the next day, and she was hooked up to all these machines. And they were telling me they were keeping her comfortable and that she was going to be just fine and that she had to go through a surgery. And the surgery was to help with a kidney stone that became septic. So they were going to put a stent in her. So I got a call that day, and they said the surgery was a complete success. Everything was great. So needless to say, I was celebrating. I was happy with my girlfriend at the time. And then at midnight, it was a drastic turn. And they said, no, I'm sorry, more or less saying, your mom is not going to be with us for much longer and you need to get here ASAP. I was like, oh, okay. So me still not awake yet, not clued in until I got to the hospital. And then I had to gown up. I had to basically get in full gear because it was during the time of COVID. And I went in there and I seen her, and it was like I was looking at a person that had no life left in them. And she was there, she could hear me, and I was speaking to her, and I was so angry, and I was begging to God to spare her and not let her go, and that I was begging her for forgiveness because she and I had got into an argument prior to that, and it just kind of dawned on me, and I stayed with her for 8 long hours through the process. And then they finally told me that it was time to come in and turn her life support off. And that was then that I realized that my mother was gone. And it brought me to a complete realization that what I was going through in life just wasn't meant for me and that I had to change who I was. And I also was working with some gentlemen at the time who mentioned that they wouldn't get the vaccine because it was an infringement of their rights. So I started to look into that and I started to realize that I've been giving away so much of my power for so long that I wanted to take back my power. And then I really got so hell bent on the conventional medicine and didn't really believe in holistic medicine. So then I made my first appointment and I met this lady who had a machine that measures your frequency. And it's basically you hold these copper rods and your body is basically telling you what it needs. For years, I didn't listen to my body. I always self-medicated or medicated to the point, oh, you got heartburn? Oh, let's take Tums. Let's take this medication. Let's take that medication. Nope. My body was trying to tell me, I don't want that in there. So it was neat to see that. And then the lady that I went to the session with introduced me to a lady named Dolores Cannon. And I started to read Dolores's books. And I fell in love after reading Conversations with Nostradamus, and it just brought me so much clarity. And then I just wanted to change myself completely. So I got into meditation. Got into high into yoga and just started to journal and learn more about just understand. I even took a self retreat where I went away for 3 days in the bush alone, no phone, just me and my thoughts and the amount of wisdom and clarity that came from that even. And during that time, I had always wanted to be a radio and broadcaster. And they told me, nope, you're wasting your time. You're not good enough. You don't have the mental capacity to be a radio and broadcaster, nor do you have the intelligence. I was like, oh. So I had that mindset going through my life that I wasn't going to be good enough, that I wasn't worthy. And then I got something inside of me said, you should start a podcast. So I was like, all right. So then I started a podcast for people who were like trauma survivors and newly awakened and understanding that all of what we've gone through is an illusion and what we were taught was wrong. And it actually impeded us or kept us from achieving success, achieving greatness, achieving growth, even. And it just brought me so much understanding to why we had to go, why we were on the journey. And then I realized I had a soul contract and my trauma had to be the way I paid back. And I was supposed to learn compassion in this life and to love each other unconditionally. And no, I learned the total opposite. I learned to judge people. I learned to be self absorbed. I learned to just be dismissive to people and be reactive to people because of what I've done in my past life. And we don't realize our trauma in this life is actually connected to a past life because we have done heinous things to others. Like I have no problem sharing this. In my former life as a soul, I was a German soldier. And the trauma that I had to go through in this life was to pay back what I did. And it gives you kind of an understanding and almost empathy for everyone right now who's hurting one another. And that's when I wanted to become a quantum healing hypnotherapist. And it just brought me more answers because it also gave me healing, but not only for the clients, because I don't do anything. I just facilitate it. You do all the work yourself. You are the one that writes down the questions. You are the one that has to sit through a 4-hour session to get to know your subconscious, to get to know you. So it's been a blessing and also a long road, but worth it in the end. And it's taught me so much about resilience, strength, empowerment, inspire. And that what inspired me to write the book, The Enemy Within, was I had to tell my story, but also at the same time, I wanted to get it out because I had it so deep down inside of me that it was causing me health problems. It was causing me to be a different person. And after I wrote the book, it just like it was like a weight was lifted off my chest. And now I try to coach people on a daily basis to show them that like your trauma is actually your blessing. It actually is making you who you're meant to be, not who you are now.
Oh my gosh, that's a beautiful way to end what you just shared. Thank you so much for that. So many
You're
things
welcome.
to say. I wrote a few notes, but I would like to start by saying the words you said about trauma being a blessing to make you who you are is very profound because a lot of times people can get stuck in that victim mode. But when you really look at yourself and see how it transformed you, you can turn that pain into purpose. So I like that you said that. Now, something you said was about how during a transition in your life, you got this thought or this intuitive hit to start a podcast. And when you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, me too. Because, I'm a creative on the side and I've always been more intuitive with art. So randomly, and with intuition, when it comes to art, I never second guess it. But in life, I do, which is crazy, right? So randomly, I was sitting down one day and something was like, start a podcast. I was like, what? Start a podcast. It will work. I was like, okay. Since you said it's okay, I'll start a podcast. I didn't start immediately. I like to sit down with it for a while. And then from there, I started seeing videos of start a podcast. These are the things to start a podcast with basic tools and all of that. And here we are. You had your intuitive nudge. I had my intuitive nudge. And somehow our paths crossed. And here we are having a beautiful conversation and we're just starting.
Absolutely. I love it.
Yeah. Now, you spoke about past lives as well. And it's beautiful when we are able to realize that we're carrying stuff from another life. And that kind of like allows us to put the weight down a bit. We can step aside and ask ourselves, how can we heal this since it's not from this life? What's the lesson? How can we change the narrative? And it just makes up for what wasn't able to be achieved in the life before. Like for some people in their past lives, they've died early. Maybe it was through a betrayal or something. And in this life, you ask yourself, why do I always get this energy of people betraying me? What's the lesson to learn? And it allows one to have like shadow work or do shadow work where they are forced to confront the enemy within, which is our fears, our traumas, our limitations, everything, right? What do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, my shadow was fear, trauma, anger, rage. And when you try to have a conversation with that person that's angry, stuck in fear, it's like you're talking to a totally different person. And you don't realize it at the time. You think, oh, they're being judgmental. No, they're not in judgment. They're actually in fear. You're angry with me. Well, you're angry actually with yourself. It's not even that you're angry at the person, you're angry at yourself. You're angry at who you are. And when you see others, you see the mirror and it reflects back to you, and you see yourself that you want to be that person. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where jealousy comes in. That's where
Envy comes
animosity
in.
comes in. Yeah. And, but you don't really notice it because you're stuck in the illusion, you're stuck in the noise, and we're surrounded by so much noise that we actually can't. And what we don't understand too is we respond to sound. And the more sound, and you're on a different frequency, even like I learned from just following like certain a doctor named Samuel Lee. He talks about autism. Autism is a frequency. And we don't realize that because we think it's a disease, we think it's a disability. It's not, it's actually a frequency. And we're all on different frequencies. Money, we even think money is real. Money's not real. Money's energy. And we're so hell bent on chasing money that we forget and we lose ourselves in the idea that we need this money. We need all these things. We don't. We need to feel it. We need to embody it instead. When we stress over things, we're putting that energy out there. This is how the law of attraction works. What you resist, you persist.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Yes. Thank you for
It's
sharing that.
interesting, though.
Yeah.
You're welcome. It's interesting, though, that we don't come to this realization because it's not that we're asleep. It's that we were taught the wrong things. We were taught how to forget. We weren't taught how to remember. And when we're taught how to remember, that's when we start to put together our own pieces to our own puzzles. And the puzzles can be put together if we really truly want them to be.
Yeah.
And I think now with the whole shift in the world, I see a lot. I don't know about you in Nigeria, but in Canada, we're seeing a lot of shifts here. And I think it's going to not put people into poverty. I think it's going to actually motivate people to do something for themselves and to trust within themselves.
Leads me to my next question. You talk about fear as the enemy within, but also as the thing that taught you the most. How did that come to be?
Well, I kind of always feared. I never had like growing when I was a child because I was reading through my baby books and I was like seeing like what I was like before I started down this path of fear. And I was like, I had no carefree and I was dancing, I was enjoying life. And it was like a veil came over me. And that was when I started to worry about what others thought. I started to care what people were thinking about me, and the imagination that I had was to try to fit in. It wasn't to try to improve myself or come creative. I didn't know how to be creative because I was told, "Oh, you're ADD, you're attention deficit disorder. You don't know how to pay attention, so you're never going to be smart enough. You're always going to be a person that's going to be a laborer. You're never going to be a boss. You're never going to be a leader. You're just always going to be the follower." So I had that stuck in my head for a long, long time. And when I left my job, that was the most like probably fearful moments of my life. And you still have those moments where fear will tap in, but during this journey, I've learned about NLP, I've learned about timeline therapy, I've learned how the subconscious works. I learned if you talk to yourself in a positive manner, you can actually rewire your mind from what you were taught to unteach it. It takes a lot of practice and a lot of repetitiveness, but I learned to just embody the fear because the fear brought me my wife. The fear brought me my book. The fear brought me the practice I need. The fear brought me a new perspective on life, a new understanding, something to be grateful for, something to appreciate, something to enjoy, and to understand that I didn't need to self medicate with drugs and alcohol. I didn't need to smoke cigarettes. I didn't need to like put poison in my body. And when you stop putting poison in your body and you start to realize like what your body truly wants is good food and good energy, then you start to attract that. And that's how synchronicities happen. That's how people don't realize, like, for instance, my wedding reception this weekend, my father met this gentleman. My father and this gentleman grew up together. This guy lives in British Columbia in Fraser Lake. Something my wife's intuition told her to put my father next to this gentleman. And guess what? They're friends growing up
Oh my
out of
goodness.
nowhere.
Wow.
So, I mean, like, you got that. And then like, you've got people that are having miraculous things happen to them, but they don't connect the dots because we don't know how to connect the dots. And I've
Hmm.
been reading this wonderful book called The Enlightened Passioner by one of my mentors who taught me about speaking. And he talks about having a synchronicity journal and how, like, things in our life that happen to us, whether it be bad, whether it be good, they're pushing us in the direction we're supposed to be going.
Just before I say more, did you get married this weekend? Last weekend?
We had our wedding reception this weekend, but we got married in April. We just kind of
Oh,
eloped to
okay.
Grenada because my wife is part Grenadian and
Oh,
Jamaican. So we went there, and then we wanted to include the people that were in their lives. So we had a reception. So
oh,
we got
that's
married
lovely.
again.
Oh,
Yes.
congratulations. Oh, wow. Thanks for
Thank you very
sharing
much.
that. Wow.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Now, the synchronicity journal sounds so amazing because you are right. Like, I love when little things like that happen where you just happen to be somewhere. You know what I'm saying? And like things unfold from there, and you're like, wow, how did this come to be? And I love when somebody says, I just listen to my mind, which brings me back to what you said about listening to your body. The body has its own consciousness. So, what you were saying about how it was speaking to you, but you couldn't understand it, it shows when you have a nudge or a whisper and you act on it. And it's so profound. So thank you for sharing that. I do like how you spoke about fear bringing about beautiful things in your life, which means that despite you being scared, you chose to dance with fear. Can you elaborate more on your relationship with fear?
You're just understanding it really and seeing it for what it's really not. It's false evidence appearing real. It appears real, but it's not. It's actually falsifying you into thinking that you are scared, that you have this notion that death is something to be afraid of. Like, and people say you die in your dreams. Well, guess what? I've died in my dreams 100 times, and I'm still here. And just to understand, like, even how death works. Like, death is a part of the ascension process. Either you're done of learning. Like, this could be my last life. It might not be my last life. A lot of people have told me it's my last life though. So this could be my last time on earth. And this is the one life where I'm gonna uh make it more memorable because it's gonna be one that's gonna be through compassion and unconditional love. Even like I've been scammed. I've gone through a lot, like, growing up and been bullied, been beaten. And now I seeing all of that, it's like I feel sorry for each and every one of you because I can't hold any ill will because in my past life I murdered people. Like, I murdered people. So it's like, how can I be angry towards the people that have scammed me, towards the people that have beat me up, towards the people that have told me I wasn't going to amount to anything. I can't, because that would make me a hypocrite. So instead, I feel sorry for you, and you're going to pay back your karma, whether you like it or not, I'm afraid. But so, if anything, like those people that do wrong in the world now, I'm sorry that you're going to have to learn more lessons. And I bless you with nothing but love and guidance on your journey, because you're going to experience what we've all experienced now, and it
Yeah,
never ends until you figure it out.
so true.
So it
Wow.
kind of gave me a realization of like being afraid of like doing things now in life, because why am I afraid? If I die, I die. It's a part of life. It's a part of the whole transition
Wow.
process. And the one thing I've learned about life is like being here, especially like Dolores always says it, like this is a school. We're here to learn to be a human. We are a soul having a human experience. And we're going to continue to have the experiences until we learn what it is to mean to be a human. And then we go elsewhere after that. But to
So
take the
true.
fear and just to understand it, like just to allow yourself to be free, because the only chains that hold you down are the chains that you choose to put up on yourself. And I had this wonderful vision the other night, and it was wild because I was in Hong Kong, and we were doing this march, and we're all in chains, and we were saying, I am sovereign, I am free. And then I asked ChatGPT, and the same year, it was 1954 that this happened. The same year, that was the year the British colony took over. And that was when communism was introduced to China. And that was when China and people from China wanted to start fleeing. So I had that vision in my dreams. So people start to pay attention to your
Wow.
dreams, even because your dreams are even motivating you and telling you things. Your
Yeah, for
dreams will even
sure.
guide you into pathways in life. So trust in the messages you receive. They may not always be the ones you want, but they are the ones you need.
Wow, so profound. Thank you. So many layers. Like, where do I start from? Let's start with dreams. I agree with you about dreams. I don't know if you're feeling this lately, but maybe we are going to like a level up or a shift or an upgrade, because I can always tell when I'm not around those times when I'm not eating. And when you talk about dreams, it triggered a memory, because lately my dreams have had a different feeling, but I can't point out the feeling. Usually, if I have a dream, I can decode what each feeling was, like symbolically. But lately, it's been like, this is here, but I don't know what this is. What is this? What is this? And despite that, it's a feeling of comfort, like you're very comfortable. There's no need to worry, but there's
Absolutely.
something new here.
Yeah,
It's crazy. So you having that dream is profound. I love dream work. So I love that you mentioned that, and that you urged my listeners to take heed and listen to their dreams, because it's so important. There's so many messages. Now, I would love for you to tell
absolutely.
me more
We're
about
getting
QA.
messages in all forms.
Yeah, yeah, we are. Can you tell me more about QHHT? How did you get into it?
Just by reading Dolores's books. I mean, reading the
What
conversations with
is
Nostradamus, her
QHHT?
clients, Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. So basically, what Dolores would do is she would do a client, okay, bring a client for a session because this client may have some form of discomfort. Well, when she would do these sessions with these clients, they would end up channeling people like Nostradamus, people from other planets, even politicians. Like we channel so much. Like if we were like not Neville Goddard explained how he was able to channel and how we are all able to channel. It's just by believing and imagining the person you want to be. It's like having a moment of anxiety. You're on a stage and you're terrified to speak on that stage. If you close your eyes and visualize yourself 15 minutes later, already being done, anxiety is gone. That's just by you imagining that. That's by you envisioning yourself as being already successful, as being already abundant, and taking that mindset and applying it to everything you do. that's where everything starts to align. That's where you start to get the messages. And with QHHT, you come and you connect with your subconscious. You have a list of questions that you have for your subconscious. Because what I do is a 2-hour interview to get to know you. And then I do a
Wow.
2-hour induction where I put you under hypnosis for 2 hours. And then you connect with either a past life, present life. Sometimes people go intergalactic. It's only what the subconscious wants you to see. And the subconscious is the one that wants to, it will show you only what you're ready to see. Sometimes my clients don't get it in one session. They have to come back from another session and then another session. It all depends on the answers you want in life. Like if you want to know your purpose, if you want to connect with people that have transitioned, guess what? Those people that transitioned, they're right here,
Hmm.
right here. And they're one of your guides, even. They're there to protect you, they're there to guide
Wow.
you. I spoke on a thing called Business, Life, and Universe. First time ever publicly speaking. During that chat, my mother was literally holding me up from falling because I was so nervous and
Wow.
scared. And she was
Wow.
there like holding me. And people in the crowd, even when I got them to close their eyes and visualize, they said they could see wings behind me holding me,
Oh my
glowing
goodness.
glowing white light there. Yeah.
What?
And we think we need to mourn our fellow like family members or no, don't mourn them. Just let them go. And they'll always be with you. They're always here. I know my
Yeah.
mother's always with me, always with me. My grandparents are always with me because we are all soul ties. We're connected energetically. My wife and I, we've been in past lives together. The people I'm sure around you have been in past lives with you. When they
Yeah.
transition, they don't leave. They never leave. They're always here. Energy cannot be destroyed. So how can a body can be destroyed? Of course, because it's a shell. So with quantum healing, it's you're jumping into those quantum realities. You're seeing yourself as this person. You're seeing yourself as a Viking. You're seeing yourself as a German soldier. You're seeing yourself as a woman when you're a man. Because at one point, guess what? You were a man. And one point
Yeah.
you were a woman. At one point we were plants. We were animals even. And
Yeah.
that's the beauty of QHHT. You get to see all of that. But you also have to believe it. You have to relinquish control. And a lot of us, and this is where I struggled in life, I could not relinquish control. I could not let anybody else control the outcome of my life. I had to be in control all the time. Now I give it up to the universe. I was
Hmm.
like, oh, okay, this bad thing happened to me. What is this teaching me? What am I supposed to learn from this now? Instead of thinking about the worst and stressing about it, I'm like, okay, so obviously I'm supposed to learn something because this wasn't supposed to be my path. And here I am now. So with quantum healing, it gives people the power to do whatever they desire within themselves. It gives them the understanding that the subconscious is on your side and that you can actually get the answers you seek from the subconscious just by relinquishing control and just by believing in yourself.
Wow. Thank you. Oh my goodness. Wow. You know what? I'm just going to take a deep breath here. That was a lot.
It's good.
Yeah, so good. Wow. I love when we talk about past lives. I love when I love when two people find each other again in present life and you can tell that, okay, we've shared many lives together. Some guests that have come on the podcast have mentioned that their present partner, their partner, they've been with them in past lives, a different storyline, and it's so interesting. Life has so many layers to it. Everything you said was just so beautiful. For me, I feel as though I like the fact that you are thorough in your sessions. You spend 2 hours getting to know people, and then you spend 2 hours in the hypnosis session, right? So everybody has 4 hour sessions with you.
That's right.
Each session is 4 hours. Wow. Okay. So what is the most interesting case you've ever had without going too much into detail?
Well, I had a client who had so much energy she didn't know what to do with. And during the session, when we were talking to the subconscious instructed me how to do Reiki. And I was able to do Reiki on a client because of what the subconscious told me to do. And I've never done Reiki
Wow.
in my life at that point. And it was like, you need to do this to help him. And that was then that I realized the true power of the subconscious and how it's there to guide us and protect us. And that this person was literally struggling. I thought this person was actually going to, like, her heart was going to stop. She had so much energy. I was like, okay, we've got to do something. And during that session, the subconscious was like, okay, here's what we need to do. I'm going to walk you through it. And the subconscious walked me through it. We were able to calm down the client, and she was able to get the answers she seeked. But that was the most fascinating thing that I ever experienced in one of my sessions.
Yeah, I can agree with you. I think what is most prominent message that one of the most prominent messages you've said is the relationship you can have with our subconscious and the way the subconscious exists on its own, there to relay messages. It could be through dreams, through synchronicities, numbers, everything. And we just have to look at things, which is why even having that synchronicity journal you mentioned would be useful because then we're able to tie everything together and connect deeper. And my next question for you is what practices can one begin to adopt to connect to their subconscious and listen to those messages or hear those messages?
I would start with meditation. I would start about 3 minutes just to get to know, like, get to understand, like, what it is to mean being quiet. Get yourself in an area where there's no noise. And if you don't like meditation, I would recommend breath work. That's another way to, like, basically slow down the mind, slow down the thoughts, and just focus on just breathing in and out in a rhythm, just going with a rhythm, even like just finding a tempo that works for you. So I would recommend that. If you don't like to do any of those things, journaling. A lot of people like to write. So
Yeah.
even just writing out your thoughts and then reflecting on those thoughts and just to there's so many ways. I mean, you can even watch YouTube videos. You can listen to meditations. You can
Mm,
watch books. Even when you read books, they give you like hidden messages.
yeah.
So just trying something that's not involved a cell phone and staring at it for hours and doom scrolling would be another good idea is to stop doing. Stop doing doom scrolling before you go to sleep at night would be probably a good idea too. And just to find somewhere where your happy place is. Because with my clients, while we're doing the induction, where is the most beautiful place that you like to go? And go there in your mind and just be in that moment and just enjoy it. And when you start to go there, you'll actually might have people visit you at this beautiful place. So just to allow yourself to, I don't know, enjoy a moment's peace, even just to have a quiet moment with yourself. Because a lot of us don't know how to even be comfortable in our own company.
So
So,
true.
first of all, that would be the one thing I would recommend before you even try any of this is to get comfortable with yourself. Be comfortable being alone. Because when you're alone, that's when you connect with yourself. And don't be scared if you start to get thoughts. You're not crazy. Some of the most wealthiest people in the world have talked to themselves for a long time. Start to do the same. And don't worry about what others think because others are just as messed up as you are.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, thanks. So, you work with men who are successful on the outside, but hiding deep wounds underneath. What patterns do you often see in high achievers who are still afraid to feel?
Well, I mean, they weren't taught how to feel. They were taught how to go after the almighty dollar. They were taught how to burn themselves out. They were taught how to chase things, not embody things. They weren't taught how to feel. Nobody was taught how to feel. Nobody knows how to be vulnerable anymore because we weren't allowed to be vulnerable. If we showed any form of emotion, we were like considered weak or a coward, even. Like we weren't really, there was no strength there. Real men don't cry. Well, guess what? Real men do cry. And I cry on a regular basis because I am a kinesthetic learner. I am an auditory learner. I'm a visual learner. So I see things automatically. I feel it. And all men feel it too. But we were told to bury our thoughts, bury even our ideas, because we're going on the thoughts of someone else's idea and it's not our own. So it's trying to unprogram that is part of what I try to help men with is or try not try, but what I help men with because I mean I can only do so much. I can give people guidance, I can give them wisdom, but it's up to them to take that wisdom and apply it to themselves. So
Yeah.
it's more or less you can preach and you can coach to someone all you want. But if they don't want to believe in themselves, if they want to stay in that victim mindset, they will stay in that victim mindset because that's what they choose. Because everything in life, we choose it. So when it
Mm.
comes to working with men, men are actually harder to work with than women because women actually, believe it or not, get it because you're more open to yourself. And that's the one thing I work with more women than I work with men because
Mm.
men don't really want to talk about their feelings. They don't want to address what's going on with them because what's going on with them is affecting their business. Whereas when you're working with a lady, I address that. We address that. And then they're successful at what they do. So it's taking that stubbornness. I mean, I was stubborn myself and I still have a bit of stubbornness in me because we all have an ego. So it's trying to get past the ego and understanding it and being being one with it really because I learned to love my ego, I learned to love my shadow. So what I try to do is to get men to understand that your ego and your shadow, they don't need to control you anymore. You need to be one with them, you just show them love, but you don't have to allow them to make you want to do the things that don't align with you. And that's why we
Yeah.
burn out because we're
Yeah.
going against something that we think is right at the time, but it's truly actually wrong to us. I mean, you go and you work a job and you're stressed out. Why are you stressed out? Because you're doing something that's not aligning. It's not something you agree with. Why you don't agree with it? Because your soul is telling you something. No, we don't want this. Let's try something else.
Mm.
But to try to get people to understand that is a task itself because people have to be open and willing to understand it.
Yeah.
So the best thing that I try to do with my clients is to show them that they can do it within themselves. And when they do it within themselves, then they are successful, whatever they do.
Thank you for sharing that. I would love to talk about your books. You have one called The Enemy Within and another one called Beyond Transcendence. Please, can you tell us about them?
No, Beyond Transcendence with Andrew is the name of my podcast. I just have the one
Oh,
book. It's called
sorry.
The Enemy Within. That's
Y-
okay.
Yeah.
The Enemy Within is basically my story. I talk about like the near death experiences I had. Like I fell 27 feet head first and I was falling. And as I was about to hit the ground, I made the conscious decision not to tense up, not to do anything. And because of that, I'm speaking to you now. But that was one of the messages I was supposed to receive, and I didn't receive it. I had four more near death experiences, and you think I would have got those messages?
Oh.
No, because we don't pay attention. Even the accidents that I've been, the car accidents, the injuries I've sustained, it was all my guides telling me to like chill out, relax. But that was what I started to realize when I was writing this book. I'm like, okay, so I need to tell people and show people that if you have an accident, if you have an injury, or if you have a near death experience, what can you learn from this? So in my book, I talk about this to empower people and inspire them. And then I show you all the things that I've done on my journey. And I basically introduce you to me. The person that I
Wow.
used to be was that lost little inner child, like child that, and we all have inner child within us. That's why we're reactive. That's why we have rage. That's why we have fear, because we're all scared children. None of us have actually grown up. None of us have until you start to do the growth within yourself. That is when you grow up. You can
Yeah.
have all the money in the world. You can be successful. You can have a career, but you are still not mature enough to understand that what the real true meaning of life is. It is to love each other unconditionally. It is to embody love. It is to be abundant, not only through money, but everything, whether it be community, whether it be career, giving back. It's not to be competitive with one another. It's not to jump on each other. It's not to divide one another. It's to unify people. It's to bring us all together. And when you realize that, life just seems like a game and you're just a character. And I played the character of self absorbed, hurt, fearful, and not understanding, not open minded, not trustworthy, to trustworthy, open minded, loving, caring, non judging. It's just we get these characters and we play them. So in my book, I talk about all the characters that I was in my relationships, in my jobs. And I show in my chapter like a person, okay, what have you done in your life? And what have you seen? What have you experienced? And it gives people, I even have a book part in the book where you can write stuff down and talk about it with yourself.
Hmm.
So my book is basically my story, but it's also the the stuff I've learned. Like I was taught money is the root to all evil. And I still my to this day, my father talks about money being like evil and he's got the scarcity mindset. It can't afford this, can't afford that. And I had that mindset. So one of my chapters is the worth of a dollar. It talks about money even being energetic and not materialistic. So it's showing people how everything is energy and that we're all energetically connected to it.
Thank you for sharing that. I like that you spoke about us being characters. I feel as though for somebody, me who's neurodivergent, I'm just starting to live life like a normal person would. 9 to 5, going to the gym, all these normal things, quote unquote, right? But to me, it's like, oh my goodness, I never thought I would actually live like this. I never thought I would actually play my character. You know, when you feel like you've been asleep for a long time and then finally you're awake, you're aligned, and you're present. And you're just making decisions that feel good to your body, feel good to your soul. And you just feel like, oh, wow, I've never felt this before. Must be what it feels like to truly partake in life. And that's how I see it when you say we're characters, we're living a game. Because when we remember that this is sort of like a game, those fears, those limitations, we transcend them. We become bigger than that. We see it for what it is, an obstacle that can be overcome, something that doesn't hold us back, that the only thing that holds us back is what is in our mind. So we strip ourselves of all of that and just be who we truly are meant to be and become more than what we were created to be or programmed to be, grew up to be. We strip ourselves of that old character to become who we truly are. Yes, that's how I see when we talk about beyond transcendence. But with the enemy within, right? I feel as though when we're talking about limiting beliefs or shedding parts of ourselves, we have to confront those fears, those traumas, the shadow work that we said that we uncover or we embody so that we're the best versions of ourselves. So you sharing your story about all those accidents, all those things that you experienced, you went through so much pain and you allowed it to crack you open. to be this person that is able to relate the story and allow people to use you as a mirror to get to know themselves better and face their own enemy within.
Uh,
So that's how I see it. So let's start with the book. Once again, beautiful title, right? But I love that you use your story as a mirror for the reader, even providing them with space to write about their own story so that they can know about themselves and listen to their subconscious and see what is triggered within them. And that's a beautiful way to write. That's a beautiful way to really, really have created this book. But when you were telling your story and you spoke about the numerous accidents you've been in, the numerous experiences that you've had, it's so difficult to understand for somebody that hasn't gone through their own pain to they would ask you, how did you move through all of that? Because for somebody that has gone through all of that, they could be in a victim mentality and stay in that cycle. But you, like I said, you are allowed all these experiences to crack you open, to transcend that old self, old identity, to heal through all that trauma, all that pain, the root causes of everything, low self-worth, low self-esteem, limited beliefs, to just be this more evolved version of you, like you said, more open, you know, more caring, happier, more aligned. That is what is important when we're sharing our story, the lessons that other people can get from it, the way we're using ourselves, like our pain, as a way to help other people heal. So it's not like you just went through it for no reason. You had a purpose behind it. So that's how I feel when you've shared about the enemy within. Now, my next question for you has to go to the podcast Beyond Transcendence. What does it mean to live beyond transcendence in today's world?
I mean, it's an experience every day. Like it's almost like you're walking through life and you're seeing it in a different set of eyes. You're walking through life and you're walking on a different set of legs because your legs, you realize those legs now have consciousness. So with the podcast, I love talking to people all over the world because I get to hear their experiences, but also get to have like tools that work for my listeners as well. Because at the end of it, I always ask, do you have anything you'd like to share? Some sort of knowledge, some sort of wisdom that will motivate my listeners to basically give them something for themselves to use. And it's just a fun. Like I treat it as like two friends talking to one another, like you're having a conversation. Basically, it's not about. It's not really about being a podcaster that really matters to me. It's about just getting to connect and understand other people and what they've gone through, and to show them like anyone struggling with trauma that your trauma is part of your choice, part of your contract, your soul contract. Now, given that you could tear up that contract anytime you want. You just look in the mirror and say, "I'll go my way," and you go your way, and you tear up the contract, and that's your choice. That's your right. But the podcast itself is just a way to bring people a voice because a lot of people are small and they don't know how to speak. So I kind of give those people a voice to speak to because I was small once too and I didn't allow myself to speak. Now I love speaking. Now I love talking. And I used to like be shy and like if I would say something and be like, oh, I said the wrong thing. Now I honestly don't care. I don't care what I say anymore because I'm not saying it to hurt anyone or anything. I'm saying it to show people that basically I'm fine. I'm healed within myself. And if it bothers you what I say, it's not because it's what I'm saying. It's because there's something still in toxic inside of you that you haven't dealt with. And on the show, we talk about that. Like we talk about how, okay, if this person bothered me, why is this bothering me? Where is this coming from? But we don't ask ourselves any of those questions. Instead, we're like, nope, that person's judgmental. That person thinks I'm this. That person thinks I'm that. Nope. Guess what? That person doesn't think any of that. You thought of all that up in your wonderful brain because of the trauma that you have. Now, it could be any form of trauma. You could be like the most wonderful person in the world, but at some point, you've experienced trauma. And because of that, the thought of injustice rages on inside of you. And it only comes out once in a blue moon, but you never ask yourself, why does that happen? Where did this come from? With meditation, with even QHHT, you get that answer. And then you go to that root and you heal it. And you can do that with timeline therapy too. You can do that with hypnosis. You can hypnotize yourself into being happy instead of being sad all the time, just like you can hypnotize yourself into healing. So why not start a podcast and talk about all that? And I did.
Thank you for sharing that. I feel as though one thing I would say out of everything that you shared is that with trauma, that is where the real work begins. And that's what we use to create this new life for ourselves, like a stepping stone or a trampoline. Okay. That,
Trampoline, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So you use that to elevate into this new life. And I'm glad that you have a podcast in which you share all of your teachings and your experiences and all of that, all of these kind of talks and theories. Okay, let's not say theories, experiences, perspectives with your listeners, because I'm sure it changes lives. Now, I wanted to ask you, with trauma and everything, how has forgiveness, especially of yourself, played a role in your transformation?
Oh, forgiveness is huge. You gotta learn to forgive yourself. I mean, we've done everything in life that we regret, we resent ourselves for. Stop doing that.
Mm,
Start looking within your heart and just let it go.
yeah.
Like we have all done shitty things to each other. And the more you hold on to that guilt and that shame, you're never going to heal.
Mm,
You're going to be in the same spot. Like I could tell you to heal your trauma, but until you actually forgive yourself and forgive the ones around you, you're going to have that memory playing back in your head over and over and over and over again. And that's how you stay in that victim mindset. That's how you stay locked, trapped in. That's basically how you keep yourself from achieving happiness, achieving the love you desire. You might stay in a relationship because you think, well, if I leave this person, I'm going to be lonely or I'm never going to find love again. Nope. Guess what? I've been there. I never thought I was going to be married. I never thought I was going to be a hypnotherapist, an author, a podcast host. I can tell you anything is possible, but you have to forgive yourself first. And until you do that, you will continue to be in that toxic environment because you choose to be in that toxic environment, because you haven't made peace with who you are, the people around you, and the energy that surrounds you.
thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's just beautiful. Now, for anyone listening today that is at their emotional rock bottom, what's the very first thing you want them to know?
Everything goes up from here. You're
Hmm.
already at the bottom.
Oh my
Can you go any
goodness.
deeper? Not really. No, everything just goes up. Just to be grateful. Be grateful that you are still here. Be grateful that you can still do things, because the one thing I've learned about basically being scammed, basically like working in the jobs that we didn't agree with, it taught us something. It taught us resilience. It taught us the skill, maybe in marketing, maybe in sales. And now you have that. So go out and do something for you and take that win. So the bottom, yeah, we're all going to go to the bottom. Just think about it. We're all at the bottom,
Um,
but are we really, really at the bottom, or are we just seeing ourselves as the bottom when really we're at the top, and
hmm.
spiritually and mentally, because
Wow.
we're experiencing things for a reason. We're here to experience bad. We're here to experience good. So we're already at the top
Yes.
in my eyes, because our soul has lived so many lives and has seen so many things and experienced so much. And that when you awaken and you understand that, takes away all power that was ever put upon you, and you get your power back.
Thank you so much. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. That's a beautiful way to end this podcast episode. Andrew reminded us that fear isn't our enemy, listeners. It's often the breadcrumb trail back to ourselves. His honesty, his tools, and his lived experience are a mirror for anyone who's ever felt like healing was out of reach. If something stirred in you today, if your heart whispered, maybe it's time, oof, go to Andrew F. Go to andrewfwilson.com. Whether you're ready to book a free discovery call, explore his podcast, or get your hands on The Enemy Within, there's something there for you, something real. As always, thank you for tuning in. Share this with someone who needs to remember your next chapter doesn't need permission, it just needs you. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you very much, Fib. It was a lot of fun.
It was.